Hi, everybody. This is Mary Ellen Laceno, and today I have the great pleasure of interviewing Louisa Froes, who is a nutrition graduate, UMass Amherst, SPHHS, from August 2019. And I have to say that Louisa is one of my favorite people, having had the great pleasure of getting to work with her for 2 years in the Office of Career Planning as a career ambassador and then a head career ambassador. So thank you, Louisa, for taking your time out of your schedule to chat with me today and everyone else that will get to enjoy this video.
And thanks for having me on here. I'm really happy I get to chat with you again.
You're most welcome. So just, right off the bat, if you would, just tell us a little bit about, what you're currently doing. And if you want to walk us through, like, since you left a year ago plus, what has that been like for you?
Right. So I left, I graduated college and then I think because I went through the RD track in nutrition, I saw a lot of my colleagues and a lot of my peers go through and, start to apply to dietetic internship programs around the same time that everyone was kind of already thinking about graduation. So when I was faced with that, I realized that, maybe RD isn't the best move for me right now at this time. So I kind of decided to go the long way to the RD thing. And I decided it was best for me to explore the nutrition field more in depth. So I wanted to start looking for jobs before I, went and straight dived into the RD track even further.
And
So,
I'm going to interrupt you because I was, from someone that got to share a little bit of that journey with you. I remember you being like hesitant about it, kind of like seeing everyone else do that. So, I'm sure later on you will probably address this, but just for any other folks out there that might also be feeling hesitant about their next steps, can you share a little bit about, like, you know, what are the signs that you recognize within yourself that you realized weren't like, yes, this is absolutely what I want to do or need to do next?
yeah, that's a good question. So, I think it was very intimidating to think about doing the thing that everyone else isn't doing, or I don't know how to phrase that correctly, but you know what I'm saying. It was very intimidating to think about doing something else, being the other, being different. Um, but I think I recognized in myself that one, I think I needed more time to think about nutrition as a whole. I actually switched into the major, and I'm really passionate about this, field. And I knew that this was the field I wanted to go into. But I guess I just wanted to explore a little bit more and see what else was out there before committing completely to the RD track. And don't get me wrong, like having an RD credential is really awesome. You get to have a lot of legitimacy in the field, a lot of different career opportunities. But I think I wanted to, figure out a little bit more about myself first before diving right into something that I wasn't completely and totally sure about. I think I think if I'm going to spend time and energy into something, I want it to be about something that I'm like fully committed to doing. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing to just give yourself some time and space and say, well, hey, I'm not too sure about this. I think I need some more time. Let me see what else is going on. I think that's totally fair for you to do in whatever context of life, even outside of your career, you know. Um, Plus, whatever I dive into next, I know that I'm gonna fully, give my 110% to, and I think that matters more.
Awesome. Thank you for walking us through that. So you recognize that weren't sure what you wanted to do, and you decided not to apply right away and do the RD, the dietetic internship. And so, what did you end up doing? What did your job search like? What were the next steps that you took?
Right. So I definitely knew I still wanted to do something within nutrition. I knew I was kind of interested in clinical from MNT, from taking that through my classes. It's really hard to get into the clinical scope of nutrition. So I wanted to get a sense of what patient interaction in the context of nutrition would look like. And my closest thing to that felt like being a WIC nutritionist, which I had heard beforehand throughout my classes. I remember there was this one class where they had somebody come in who was a WIC nutritionist and talk about what that was. So I knew that I think that would have been something interesting for me to dive into. So I tried to look for more positions that were about these kinds of things, and mainly being the patient interaction stuff. And I eventually did. I got a position in the Boston area because that's where I was moving to, where I am now a WIC nutritionist as well as the breastfeeding coordinator. So I have two different positions within the same like program, which is kind of cool. But yeah, I just knew that I wanted patient contact, and I think my best route to go there was through WIC.
Great. And how did you find the position? How long did it take? Anything you want to comment on about interviewing? I know I'm throwing some new stuff at you, so sorry.
No, it's good. It's good. So I think I assumed that getting a position after graduating would be much more straightforward. I think that's also because a lot of my friends were engineers, and the engineers, they think about their careers like months before graduation, and then by the time they're out, they already have something lined up. So I was feeling weird because I didn't have something lined up. Don't do that. Don't compare yourself to other majors or other people in general. So I assumed it would be more straightforward, but it is a lot of like, I had to go through a lot of interviewing. I interviewed to many different places. Sometimes you go in for a second or a third interview and then you still don't get the position. And that is kind of like, that kind of sucks. You think that you're getting farther, but it's just a part of the process. I learned to like not take those things so personally. I know that they're just trying to get to know these people a bit better. I think once I've been in this position on the other side, I understand why it can be such an extensive process, from that end. You want to make sure you're picking someone that really fits, your environment, your culture within work. So I understand, I get it, but it is kind of a long process. So I'd say the earlier you can do it, the better. It did take me a few months to find something. And I did do a few different interviews with a few different places, got kind of far, didn't get it. And that's normal, it's just like, yeah, it's part of the process, I'd say.
That is indeed very normal. Do you think that possibly, your language ability is something that helped land this specific position?
I think so. Yeah, because working in the Boston area, there is a um, population demographic where there's a lot of like bilingual, multilingual people here, and I can speak Spanish and Portuguese as well as English. So I think that was really valuable to my specific employer. I know that in the area of Boston that I'm closest to, there's a lot of Portuguese speaking individuals. So I'm able to provide like nutrition education in a different context to that population. And I think they found that really valuable. So yeah, I'd say definitely play up, or not even play up, just talk about your values as a human being, such as knowing different languages or things that you've experienced in your life to kind of match up what the employer is looking for.
Awesome. Could you tell us a little bit about the training that you had and sort of like walk us through a typical day in WIC in your positions?
So the training I had was kind of long. I think I had like 3 months of training or something like that, because it's a lot of policy that you have to learn and pick up. It's a lot of specific language, and I think because WIC is partially funded, well, it is a government program. There's a lot of policies and language and rules and regulations that you have to follow that is very, very unique to the world of WIC and nutrition. And just getting on that is, takes a bit of time. So there's that aspect, but then there's also the aspect of WIC where it's like I'm pretty much in a typical day doing appointments all day. People come to see me for nutrition education. And the reason it's called WIC, it's because it stands for women, infant, and children. So most of my demographic tends to be exactly that. I'm pretty much doing like a lot of prenatal or, postpartum appointments, children under the age of 5 usually. So lots of toddlers and tiny tots and infants too. So that's the population that I serve.
Great. Um, what would you say is the best thing about what you're doing?
I would say the best thing that I have experienced so far is definitely being able to see how much of a difference. I don't know, I think being able to serve the community that kind of matches with your background is very gratifying. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's something different when you get to see, like, I've been able to serve a few different families where they only speak Portuguese. They haven't completely learned English. They're still trying to understand, how it is like to live in America, maybe. And, there's a lot of things that are new to them. And I think having someone being able to help them with something like through this program and speaking their language and knowing a little bit about their life and their context of their life and helping them is like very gratifying to me. Because that's kind of a unique experience that you wouldn't get otherwise, and I think that was especially gratifying. I think that's the best part about working for WIC.
Awesome. Thank you. How about the flip side of that? Something that's been challenging or you weren't anticipating or, just least favorite.
Um, Definitely, I think it would be the pushback that I get sometimes. Sometimes when you work with a certain um, demographic group or like population, you kind of assume it's going to go one way, but it might go the other, and sometimes, it tends to be, I don't know, how do I say this? How do I put this? Sometimes it can be kind of a, well, what am I trying to say? Okay, I'm flipping on my words now. What was I going to originally say? I think I was going to say, what was I going to say? Sorry, I'm like blanking.
That's okay. Is it a situation where you're wanting to provide assistance, trying to help someone, but maybe they're not in a place where they want to hear it or can absorb it?
Exactly. I think what I want to say is that sometimes, you in order to counsel someone, they have to be ready to be counseled.
Mhm.
And a lot of the times when I meet new families, maybe they're not at that point yet. So, they might not be ready to receive my services necessarily for nutrition education, but I'm always there for them and I always let them know anytime you want to start having this conversation, I'm here for you. But I think I just didn't expect that not everybody wants to talk about nutrition or wants to learn more about these kinds of things from the get-go. You kind of have to be in a time and space where you want to receive that information. So it's a stark contrast. It really is. And I think anybody in the counseling world will understand that difference. Yeah.
So what have you learned about yourself, in working with folks that are not yet in a place where they want your assistance?
Patience. Patience and forgiveness. And I think I've gotten a really good understanding on humans as a whole, like humanity. I think having more patience with people, being more forgiving, these are things that everyone can benefit, doing to each other. And I think specifically in counseling, it's like, kind of talking to someone at the root of it, like about a behavior change. And that's not easy. That's not easy to start having a conversation about. Um, so I totally understand from their perspective as well as from mine how that could be challenging on both ends. And I don't know, you need a sense of trust in the other individual.
Mhm.
You need to have a sense of like familiarity, legitimacy. There's a lot of things that goes into that. And so I think I've been much more understanding about where people are in their different walks of life.
Great. Thank you, Louisa. Um, when you were still in college, taking classes and whatnot, um, what are some other opportunities that you took advantage of personally, whether it was through an internship or something else, that allowed you to gain experience and know that nutrition was the area that you wanted to go into outside of classes?
That is a good question. I remember in freshman year, I had a lab job, and this was previously with my old major, and I didn't really enjoy that. So I knew I had some soul searching to do. I think I reached the conclusion of nutrition because well, one, I didn't realize that you could make a career out of something that was like previously thought to be just one of my hobbies or like life interests, I suppose. I really am a believer of like food can be very, food is medicine. There are medicines out there that are preventative, and I think food and diet and nutrition is definitely one of them. So I'm a huge believer in that kind of, mindset. And I thought it was really awesome when I found a career and major that could bring me to that um, kind of area and field. Um, some things that I did other than career ambassador stuff, what did I do? I think a lot of my experiences that were very closely related to nutrition was outside of school. Like I had a few positions over the summer that I would have, the summers in between um, college years. Like I remember there was one position where um, I worked with kids again previously, but it was like SNAP education kind of. So I worked um, for kind of like a government position again, but it was basically teaching little kids about like my plate or like healthy snacks and doing like snack demos and things like that with other teachers. And it could be from kids as young as like 2 to like middle schoolers. So it was like a different age range. And that was really fun, very interactive. Um, I worked as a diet tech for a while um, at a hospital near my house, and that was really fun too. I got to see nutrition in a different scope, super, super different from the other position, a little bit more clinical. Um, so I think all these different experiences, as well as the classwork and the coursework that I did, really let me understand that nutrition was definitely for me. Um, yeah, I just really liked how everything related back to in the context of modern medicine, nutrition is still a fairly new science, but I really enjoyed that about it. I think, once people devote more time and energy into nutrition, there's a lot of, positive outcomes that may come for chronic diseases, for preventative measures, etc.
Awesome. Thank you. So do you mind sharing a little bit about, where you see yourself going next?
Well, so I have decided that I do want to eventually get my registered dietitian certification. I just decided to take the long route. um, so I guess my next step, short term, would be to apply for the RD um, for a dietetic internship, probably in my area as well, within the Boston area. And then after that, kind of see where it takes me. I'm really open to, seeing where the RD credentials take me, and I'm open to doing something not even related to patient interaction. I think I'm just very open and willing to see how, what is out there in the world of nutrition other than just like counseling, patient interaction. There's like a lot of stuff that people don't think about, and I'm really interested in that, like food labeling. People don't think about those types of positions or management, even. What was another one? Research, nutrition research is really, that's up and coming. I think that's really interesting. So I'm open to all of that stuff.
Awesome. Thanks. Any words of advice, for someone that may be watching, that's still, in school, thinking about their next steps and nutrition?
I guess my most valuable snippet of information that I can give students is that, you don't have to even though it may feel like it, you don't have to directly go into your RD. You can take some time for yourself to think about it, and even now, um, I'm still in the middle of my job and still in the process of getting my RD and open to even switching, you know, my context of nutrition even after that, So um, I think it's okay to just take a chance and explore what you like and what you don't like about your field before directly committing into something, that takes a lot of time and energy and um, like an RD. Um, so I think that's definitely my most valuable piece of information. It's okay to take some time, take a step back, and think about, pros and cons, explore what's out there. I'm definitely a huge advocate for that.
Awesome. Well, I will conclude there. Thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. And definitely keep in touch with us. Thanks, Louisa.
Thank you.